Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the Back of the Bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got a new mate with me. I'm buzzing for this because he's a lovely mate. So I'm going to welcome aboard Matt Elliott from Nutrition Angel. Yeah! Nobody
Insert
goes with the cheer, mate. No.
Yeah, insert claps.
I've got Foley for it. I get balloons coming in. It goes wild, so it's...
A confetti cannon.
Yeah,
That is
doing all that hand
sign.
gesture, mate.
Yeah, that's the international sign for
I
confetti
swear
cannon.
to God, I'm going to put a confetti cannon, nothing else in.
Got to.
Nothing sinister.
Yeah.
How have you been, my friend?
Yeah, good. Busy at the moment. I just feel busy but not productive, which is generally not a good state of mind for me at the moment. But no, all good.
Does that mean you're spinning in circles a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of organised chaos, shall we say? But it's all good. It's all part of the growth process, isn't it?
The process.
Yeah, all good.
Are you creative in what you do? Because the organised chaos often falls to creative worlds. I hear it a lot. But when I met you, it was for quite a... Is it corporate-y or business?
Formal, yeah.
Yeah, formal meeting. Mm-hmm. I'll just give the story. I wanted to make a bit more business connections because my creative chaos had been going on. And, you know, the admin side, the bureaucratic side had been falling. And I want to help my partner out because I don't make her, but I'm too reliant on her to face all of that. She is better at it than me. But... I want to support her on that.
Better at the chaos?
Better at the admin-y kind of side, so the more formal side of business. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing what I can at the minute to approach it head on because I've always turned away from it. So one step was trying out that meeting, and it was really interesting, all the different people in there. And kind of what it did was diffuse that it can be fun as well. I felt there was a nice energy in that environment. Mm-hmm. And when you're looking at public liability and you're looking at accounts and all that, it doesn't have to be scary, which I'd always kind of seen it as. But I've got to give real props to you, man. You made me feel so comfortable. You were welcoming and just took straight away ownership and leadership of, I can imagine for this guy who's come in a bit of an odd clothing and got his flip-flops on and all that, it might not be his first point of call or place to go to.
But I did tell you to come like that, so you did.
That's very true. Yeah. Get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
But you were just so lovely with it, and I really do appreciate that. So my experience was he's really cool, and then when you got up to speak, you spoke passionately, concise, and just articulated yourself awesome. And I thought this guy's got a story and a history there. So thank you for that moment.
Pleasure,
man.
mate. Pleasure.
I really do appreciate it.
The thing is, though, we've all been that person that's walked into the room where we either feel uncomfortable or we don't know anybody or something like that. So, you know, I've been that guy, and I turned up in a fucking 3-piece suit, which I really regretted straight away. Because it's just what, you know, the only time I'll wear that is if I'm either training on stage or public speaking or something like that. I wouldn't generally rock around in a suit for business work or other. You
found your balance there. No flip flops, though, I'm guessing.
No, I'm not. I'm not a massive flip flop guy.
You're missing out, man.
Like, yeah, trainers. Yeah, I'm not kind of there with the flip flops yet. Yeah.
But it was a formal place, and you said about being organised chaos. So yeah, what is your day to day? In terms of, when I hear organised chaos, I think, oh, that's creative people. Mm-hmm. But actually, I met you in a business form place. Mm-hmm. So what is your actual job? What are you doing?
I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before, because I haven't got a job.
Awesome.
Because I'm a business owner. Well, I suppose I have got a job, but I suppose my job would be to help the people that I'm associated with get the success that they've come to me for in the first place. Because I wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of different guises that in the environments that I'm in. So I suppose if I had to give myself a job title, it would be, you know, ensuring that the people that are coming to me for a reason get what they came to me for, if that makes sense.
Which is what they're coming to you for? Is it a magnitude of things?
Yeah, I mean, if it's the Nutrition Angel stuff, it's leaving them better than I found them. I try and do that. I try and leave them better than I found them. In whatever, so hopefully, like when you came into the business networking event, I left you better than I found you.
You did.
So obviously at Nutrition Angel, we do we're basically a healthy smoothie bar for people who want a healthy option to either eat, drink, or other. But we also have a side of the business which is for people who want to change shape. So that could be fat loss, it could be they want to gain weight or what have you. So coaching them through that way. But fundamentally, we're like a healthy Starbucks, which also
where are
has
you based then?
Excuse me. Park Farm in Allenstown. Sorry, I'm animating with my hands and just twatting all over the place. Park Farm in Allenstown.
That means you're passionate, mate. I like it.
Yeah, I'll do out here rather than in here.
Park farming. Okay, I didn't know you actually had a location to come find you. Are you often there?
Yeah, I'm there because at the moment, because the whole point is to roll out multiple ones of these. So I'm working in there at the moment with obviously my clients coming through, figuring out the systems, processes, and funny story actually, because I'm in there doing everything to be able to duplicate it and roll out more of the sites. I'm left-handed. And it wasn't until creatives. I'm left-handed, green-eyed, O negative blood. I'm rare as shit.
I'm feeling it.
So, where was I going with that? What were we talking about?
The creative process.
So I'm in there sort of figuring everything out and what have you. Now, the girls came to cover me, or some of my team came to cover me while I was away, and they're all right-handed. And we figured out quite quickly that I'd set everything up left-handed. So obviously from systems and process perspective, actually having a left-handed place set up probably didn't serve me, but hey, that's
even the
process.
doors, when they're going to open a door, it's usually the locked one that the left hands go for, and so on.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was more like where the shaker cups are going, where this is going. Yeah. So like where I move in a particular way, I'll obviously lead with my left hand, whereas they're obviously leading with the right. So everything was kind of the mirror image of it. So
mate, that's fascinating.
But that's it is what it is. It's
How long have you had this business?
We opened. Well, I've been in the business that I'm in now for 11 years.
Wow.
But this is a different arm to what I've been currently doing over that time. So I'd wanted to do it pre-COVID or BC, before COVID, as we call it.
No way.
Yeah, 2020 BC. I wanted to do it, but it was.
I'm going away with that.
You have it. You can take it. But yeah, it was. Obviously put on a hiatus, but before COVID we had a sequence of nutrition clubs around Derby, so we've got a few different sites. So a nutrition club is essentially, in its format that it was just like an open space where people come in. So like, I don't know, it could be an office, it could be like an old cafe or something like that we'd taken over. And people would come in to basically lose weight with us, get coaching on what they could eat and all this kind of stuff. Have the products that we give them in situ. They do food diaries, a little community, basically a community of people that want to have better health.
Yeah.
So the whole time this was going on, I'd been looking at what was going on in America and all this kind of stuff. And they'd got these really cool shake bars and whatnot. I mean, these bars are just ridiculous. They're like. Just awesome. If you imagine like an amazing bar, like you go drinking in, like the same, but for healthy smoothies and all this kind of stuff. So flew out to Dallas in January. I'm kind of like when I make my mind up, I want to do something. We just crack on. So flew out to Dallas. One of my friends has got a load of these in the States, so went and stayed with him. He let me work with his sister who was operating a bar in Texas. So went and worked out of one of those. For a week, came back, started looking for sites. This place came up in Park Farm, a little smaller than I would actually have wanted it, but because it was kind of a market test, because in truth be told, we're not quite there yet in the UK for things like smoothie bars or shakes and this kind of stuff, unless they're like the big dessert shakes in the dessert shacks and what have you. Yeah. But like the healthy stuff and what have you, we're just kind of not there yet to be able to go into almost like a retail unit and buy a shake. Maybe in London you've got Joe and the Juice popping up and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, we're just maybe slightly behind, so it was a bit of a risk. So looking at the site on Park Farm, I thought, well, actually, it's smaller than I wanted. Yes. Could I test the market in it? Yes. If it doesn't go the way I want it to, can I repurpose it into something else within my existing business? So yes. So mitigated the downside, and we just thought, sod it. So my dad went in. I'd like to say me and my dad, but it was actually, if we were looking on percentages, probably 95% my dad pulling this thing together. I got the vision in my head, and I knew exactly. And the weird thing is, it's turned out exactly how I envisaged it. I created it in my head, and then went and it just popped out in the same way that I'd got it in my head, which is really weird.
What was the moment that you realised that? When did you look back at it, reflect on it, and go, "Oh, this is the thing I thought about"?
When I did one of the, so as he was building and stuff like that, I do like little 3 or 4 second videos on my phone.
Yeah.
So like when we got to the end, I did like the click change video that you've like seen on TikTok, where you click and it changes and what have you.
I'm literally this week learning TikTok.
So don't get me started with it. It's like, it's one of the it's like I want to do it, but I also don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And I also feel like, you know, I'm 40 now. I'm kind of like, should I be rocking around on TikTok?
You're 40.
Yeah.
Wow. Whatever you say next in the podcast, I'm going to just believe and do, because if that's what you look like at 40...
40's, mate, trust me, like,
just gained all my trust.
Nothing. 40 is nothing. It's like...
wow.
Yeah, but you... Like, my dad, for years, right, all the time was like saying, I'd go, yeah, but you're insert age or whatever. You go, yeah, but I'm only 21 in my head.
Yeah.
And it's not until I got to 40 that I realised it's actually telling you the truth. Like, that your head just still feels like you're a kid, or you're young, you're 20 or whatever. So yeah, bizarre fact.
It's very much, I'm just going off aesthetics there, because some of my best mates are like 40, in their 40s, and they're way more young-minded than I am. They act silly, and I love it, and I learn so much. Yeah,
that never goes away.
Yeah, I love it. You was mentioning someone earlier, Owen. Were you in the same year at school?
No, I think he was either a year or two above me. I want to say
part of his company, Full Reptile.
Yeah,
repping, baby.
Yeah.
Always repping, mates.
That's it. Always.
But yeah, I think I do love that age is just a number, because it's funny when people, I'm too old for that now, or they put limitations on themselves from it.
The funny thing is like, if you didn't know, if nobody told you how old you were, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's so true. But you just look fucking great.
Thanks, mate. No, I appreciate that. Well, the thing is though, when I'm in a lifestyle and a nutrition brand, I've got a rep.
Be the change you want to see.
Yeah, this is it. But the thing is though, like I think what I always have a disclaimer. So if I do things for, like, say, so BNI, the Business Networking International event that we did, you'll do, I don't know, like a 10-minute slot where you talk to people and tell them either what you do, give them something to learn, basically. And I start with a disclaimer. You say, look, I drink, I love I call it a Victory cigar, so I love a good Cuban cigar, I love junk food, all of that kind of stuff, because it makes you relatable to the industry that you're in. There's far too many of the kind of, like, someone looks like they've stuffed a toffee crisp in a condom, like, because they've got lumps and bumps everywhere, the skin's that thin, and it's just not a true representation of. It's more intimidating than, to a lot of people, and I'm generalising here, to a lot of people, than it is inspiring. I mean, you can be inspired but intimidated at the same time. And, you know, for some of my best coaches are what I would just say are like normal looking humans that have had a great, they could have lost 3 or 4 stone, but they look healthy, they're not ripped, there's not massive muscle on them and all that kind of stuff, and they get the best results out of their clients because they're so relatable. And
I like that. It feels unattainable and unrealistic.
Yeah.
Toffee crisp analogy there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've been that guy. I've been that 4.5% body fat guy, and I've been that was sort of more in a different life, as it were, before I'm doing what I'm doing now. But I guess we'll touch on the past and how I've sort of arrived at where I'm at now. And it's, if that's what you want to do, then cool. But that's just, I've not found that to be the best route for me to kind of go down, and I've also had a lot more success when I wasn't as I call myself leanish now. It's like I'm like leanish, but I like pizza as well. And my principle, I've got to live my principles, and my principles to my clients are: look, all we're going to do is we're going to swap bad for better. We're going to I'm not going to take anything away from you, and I literally don't take anything away from my weight loss clients, but I also tell them that they can't have everything. They can have it all, but just not all at once. So, we swap bad for better, throw in some steps, and generally we get them towards the thing that they want in the first place, and the reason they came to see me in the first place.
How much of that is when you're helping them change their nutrition and diet, does the mindset have to come into it? Because when you see people with drugs and alcohol, let's say, I love this quote, it's drugs and alcohol are not the problem, they're the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
And the problems, usually deep rooted and over here why they've built up such bad relationships.
Yeah.
So do you go and do an immediate fix where you can help them swap bad for better? At what time, and this might be a very elusive question because it might be different for everybody, but what time does mindset altering things have to come into the equation?
It depends. It depends obviously on the person. So I suppose to answer it in a roundabout way, like people will ask, are you a nutritionist? Have you got a degree? Or, no, I'm not. And I'll put my hand up to anybody who asks, are you a nutritionist? I say, no, I'm a peopleist. I've been working with people.
I love that.
It's nothing to do. It really is nothing to do with nutrition. And I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, and it's nothing to do with nutrition. It's to do with what that person thinks nutrition is. They're different things. It might sound like semantics, but it isn't. It is all down to their mindset, but then there's also degrees of mindset, because you've got client A over here who maybe has had an eating disorder in the past, and you've got client B over here that's been in shape. They kind of know what they're doing, and you just become an accountability crutch for them. And really that's all you are. You're just the accountability to keep them. And the mindset thing is you're just helping them keep promises to themselves that they make.
It's like a diary, but a live diary that you can go towards and reflect
that's
on.
why my process works so well, because everything's done on touch points in the amount of times that you see me, in order to keep you on track. So it's not a passive process for clients, it's an active process that they participate in, which you have to strengthen people's mindset over time, and it really only is giving them the confidence that they know what they're doing. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows what they're doing. 100%. They know what's healthy and what isn't. Even to just the smallest degree, they will know what they should be eating, what they shouldn't. It's just my job to let them know that they know what they should and shouldn't be doing. So just fucking do it. And holding them to account when they're not, because it's very easy to make excuses to yourself. So I actually do very, very little with nutrition. I know what's healthy. Don't get me wrong, I study nutrition, and I just haven't gone and taken a test that says I'm a nutritionist, but I'm very well versed in that area.
Peopleist.
Yeah, but you don't need to have a degree in nutrition to help people lose weight. You don't.
Mate,
you give them a few simple set of principles.
You've just given me something there that I'm going to go away with, the peopleist thing, because I've worked with kids, and I've done that, go to schools, and we'll get onto your assemblies and stuff soon. But I started out doing assemblies, then I actually went into the classrooms and started teaching. Then eventually we started doing sessions and workshops from the farm. And the amount of people that have asked for the qualification and what it is, how I get into schools, what courses I've been on. And actually I'm like, no, I was just a kid that was very lost, and I see that in all them. And I can give them...
Do you know what you need? You need a scroll that just says life experience.
Yeah.
And you just put it in your back pocket. I knew you were going to answer that, so I came prepared.
Mate,
and got that.
But dude, peopleist is such a great way of putting it. I love that. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to cling to that.
But the thing, that's classic education. That we cannot go down the education rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll be
game over.
It would be game over. But that's the difference.
Let's just say it could do with refining and different structures being implemented.
Yeah. Or just completely scrapping and actually
Amen, my brother. I like you even more.
Starting again.
This is a beautiful friendship blossoming.
Hey, blossom away. Fertilise me.
Great pun there. If anybody, you're watching this, if you hear anything in the background and it becomes, you think an aeroplane's landing in, it's not, it's the tractor.
Shit spreading.
And it's, literally shit spreading all over us and our conversation.
It's basically the Sun newspaper.
Yeah.
Going on outside.
So that's one thing. I saw on all your social medias, you're performing to hundreds, if not sometimes thousands, it looks, of crowds and people. Mm-hmm. Are you doing a talk that you've got this talk and that's the one that you deliver, or is it always forever changing what you deliver?
So I suppose to backpedal a bit or moonwalk. So my like the company that I've been in for the last 11 years, it'll be 11 years I think in November, is a company called Herbalife Nutrition. So I've been in network marketing, or some people know it as MLM, the dirty word, all this kind of stuff for...
Why is that dirty? Just
because there's just negative connotations attached to the industry, because of the time it came around at the time of like lots of like schemes were being launched, like back in the sort of late 50s, 60s and what have you.
Pyramid style
stuff.
Yeah,
all that kind of rubbish. And, it's... we call it a vampire myth because it just refuses to fucking die. But yeah, so when I'm training and the things from social media, it's actually it's at company events. So they can be anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand. And then it depends on what I'm doing that day. So some days it could be hosting the day, as in like MC from, not like rapping or anything.
I know exactly, yeah.
As in
mic controlling.
Yeah, hosting the day, bringing people on, segueing and all that, which I really enjoy, by the way, because it's bloody hard work and you just fried at the end of the day. But I do quite like it because you don't necessarily have to. It's a little bit more on your feet kind of thinking, like a bit more like live TV style than it is having to prepare a training and then deliver the training and all that kind of stuff. Because like with the trainings and all that kind of stuff, you've got to make sure that you hit the narrative right. You've got to pick up all the points. You've got to get the buzzwords in and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, like having been in like now over 10 years, I can train with my eyes closed. I just do prefer to pull the best bits out of what people have said to be able to reiterate and link the day together. I enjoy doing that. But at the same time, I do enjoy the training side as well.
So that's mainly training. Do you do other talks where you go to schools or anything like that and assemblies and stuff?
It's I think because for me it's kind of been just like work mode for the last 10 years or so. It's, I suppose, I'd kind of certainly the last 5 years I had a bit of a word with myself and said I need to be a bit more selfish to just get the things in place that I need to, because I see like that kind of stuff done later on.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
When you've matured, found the wisdom in all the truths and the stories, and you're ready to give it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's some truths and whatever that I've definitely come to. But I suppose by the time you hit 40, you're pretty much, I hate to say it, but you're pretty much middle-aged, which I don't buy into.
I know what you're saying.
But, if you're looking statistically, then yeah you are. But, I was kind of like looking at it because I didn't like being or getting to 40 and all that kind of stuff. People, midlife crisis and all this kind of stuff. I don't even feel like I've even hit like third of life yet. I just don't even like think that I have. I think that's probably because like I haven't lifted my head up really for the last like 10 years. I suppose it's been a bit like, I guess, tunnel vision, I suppose.
Why do you think people do get to midlife crisis?
I think there's a number of things, both for male and female. I think if are we just talking guys?
Yeah, let's go with guys.
I think there's a whole. I mean, there's a whole rabbit warren that we can go down here, but I think there's a lot to do with male hormone levels. I think for a start. I think the decline in testosterone and all this kind of stuff, and the and then the other hormones being out of kilter as a result of that, I think that can play on guys' minds without them even knowing about it. I think that's something that the UK has to catch up with really, really quickly. Doctors are very quick to hand out HRT to females and what have you, which is and that's a complete minefield in itself. And we need to get better at it, because the amount of clients that I see come through my doors with menopause and they ask that question, can you help me? The only thing I can say is I don't know, because you're all so completely different. I would love to be able to help you, but even like the research and all the stuff that's in and around it isn't conclusive on what's what. Regardless of the person in front of me. So when you get the same thing, and I'm convinced the same kind of process happens in guys, not to the same degree, but it just manifests itself in a completely different way. You know, you look at the drop in testosterone and the links to like depression, and all the stuff that surround that, male suicide rate, all that kind of stuff. You know, guys not being the most open to talk about what's going on and all that kind of jazz. Right the way through to added body fat in areas that they weren't getting it before. That then becomes we were talking about perpetual cycles and stuff like that. You take a guy who's had a drop in testosterone, package that with now their body shape changing like crazy because they don't realise that that's the case, get depressed about that, lack of self-confidence, and then start going on a quest to try and see how they can make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
So is that now right? I'm going to go buy the sports car. Or is it I'm going to go cheat on my wife that I've had for the last 20 years? It's how it manifests itself.
Wow.
Is
have you had your levels done of recent?
No, I get regular blood work.
Do you?
Yeah, literally. I try and aim for every 6 months. It was a little bit more tricky over COVID and what have you. But yeah, everything's all in a good range. But,
I didn't know how deep the rabbit hole went for TRT and the levels in men. I did a podcast with RGL Filmhouse, Gus. Right. He works for like Gymshark and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A really awesome friend of mine, a big Scottish bloke, and I've always looked up to him. We came to do a podcast on a completely different premise, an idea, videography really. But then when he explained how much it had changed his life, getting his levels done, getting testosterone replacement, that's kind of where the podcast took place. And it is fascinating.
Yeah. You know, I'd recommend any guy that's either having, you know, you don't have to be a genius to go Google the symptoms of low test. You know, you go Google it, see if it manifests itself within you, or that, you know, it's a symptom that you've been experiencing, and then go get it checked. The only caveat to that would be I'd go private, go find a specific doctor, because and I'm not bashing GPs by any means, but you know, I was in the GPs like 2 weeks ago, was having a conversation about, not about tests or anything like that, but and just the blank face response that I got to a lot of questions that I really kind of wanted answers to, in relation to, you know, like men's health and all this kind of stuff. Actually, mainly, I was just doing digging so I can help my clients. Yeah. But
here's the script. Don't go off this script. Yeah. Look at the triangle. Follow that. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Pass, you know, take 200, pass go, sort of thing. And so, you know, investing in that kind of area, if that is of interest, it would be certainly high up on the moment. Like mine started dropping, it would be TRT straight away. Like the moment it's not, the body's not doing what it should be. Like, why would you, if you can be optimal in a certain area and mitigate, like the risks of low testosterone versus replacing it completely outweigh the cons all day long. And
one other thing that you mentioned in that talk was about us not opening up to one another simply. Where do you think that sort of transcends from?
I think it's, I'd like to say we're getting better.
Yeah.
But I think there's just the I mean, I don't even think I'm going to even pretend to know. Because when you look at like how diverse of a society we are now, you know, in all sorts of areas, I don't think there's any justified reason why we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the way things are. Maybe that's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
You know, maybe guys are wired in the way that they're wired, just like women are wired in the way
that masculine energy.
Yeah, maybe
doesn't always manifest itself into overshare to some degree.
No, and I think it's like anything. There's so many different personality types. Some are willing to share more, some are not. And I think it just comes down to maybe, you know, I probably wouldn't say that I was particularly a talker. You know, I think it's an inward processing kind of guy, and I've got a massive resting bitch face as well. So usually I'm just
not
processing.
Seen that yet.
I'm just you haven't caught me when I'm like trying to process something then. But yeah, no, I've definitely got the RBF for sure. Particularly when I'm training as well. I've got my head cans on or what have you. Yeah, don't want to digress. I'd just think that I'm wired in a way that goes, I'll figure it out. You know, and I don't know whether there's many other guys that are like that. You know, it's kind of like, it's fine, I'll figure it out. And then I think sometimes it goes so far that fine, I'll figure it out, then just ends up in some kind of cataclysmic event that I generally think that everybody's got the same ability to open up and talk, but I just think their fuses are either longer or shorter.
That's interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the time it takes for the explosion or what have you.
So you're not necessarily repressing things, you're just sieving through things and doing that internal dialogue with self most of the time.
Yeah, I think, because I mean, being in business and all that kind of stuff, you have to be solution orientated.
Yeah. Which I think, in my opinion, is quite a masculine trait.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of women that are phenomenal. Like, in fact, they're better probably. I think.
I think that's important to know. Women have masculine energy. We have feminine energy.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's anomalies of both. You sometimes get more masculine women than masculine men, and so on. Yeah. It's just predominantly, I suppose, men have more of this energy.
It'd be interesting to see the difference between a type A kind of alpha male equivalent female, and see what the communication skills in terms of opening up and all that kind of stuff. You know, see whether there's
I'm fascinated towards that. Yeah,
like the human psychology side of stuff is really fascinating. And the thing is because everybody's so different.
Yeah. Neurodiverse.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, like with, because I suppose I came in through a particularly masculine background with being in the forces and all that kind of stuff.
Which I'm looking forward to getting into.
It was kind of like I was during the cusp of before health and safety got hold of it, and I wouldn't say ruined the way that it was, because you know it's like most forces. And again, generalisation, but most forces are broken. And I think most people within that, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at the NHS, ambulance service, forces, whether you're looking at police force, they're fundamentally broken.
I understand, yeah.
And, you know, I just, I don't think that, and I was in that environment where it was just, I suppose, trying to be less broken by bringing in health and safety and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes they're broken for a reason, and they're broken because the broken works for the task that they're built to achieve, but it's not built for the people that are doing the job in the first place.
Completely understand. Yeah. I completely understand.
It almost has to it almost has to survive broken in order to complete the task that it's supposed to do. I mean, forces, fundamentally, the job is to go kill people. Yeah. You know, and if that was functional, then, you know, you kind of have to question that too.
There needs to be an understanding of there is a nuance within this. We can't have everything absolute and clear cut.
No,
when especially you're dealing with something, what you just said there, where you have to have a mental conundrum in that. Okay, I love where the conversation's got to, because I suppose me being around your energy, I look at it and I'm like, that's quite an archetypal masculine man there. That's the way I've seen it. I don't know how that comes across, but I thought, that's a man that holds himself strong, stands in his energy strong. And when you said you internalise things a lot, has that ever come to a point where it brought about an uncomfortability or affected your mental health in any which way?
I'd probably say no, but I think because, you know, I do a shit ton of personal development, and I kind of know what is. So I go train, lift, do that kind of stuff, do martial arts, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the outlet. I think if there's no outlet that's dealing with that kind of stuff, or I think people's lack of self-awareness is probably not helping, and that's not through their own fault. It's the lack of self-aware of they've never actually stopped to think and question, or ask themselves better questions, or ask better questions of others. And I just think that would actually I think that would assist a lot of challenges if they kind of I think because everybody's in this kind of, I suppose call it rat race or whatever, is, you know, if it's not kids, it's job. If it's not job, it's parents. If it's not parents, it's aging parents. If it's not aging parents, it's something else. And I think society doesn't really stop to just like take a measure of like, you know, do I know
who am
me?
I?
Yeah,
what am I?
Yeah,
Where is my moral compass aligned with?
Yeah, I'm not talking like the whole sort of like woosah kind of stuff, but there is a place for that as well, for sure.
Reflection.
Yeah,
I
just that kind of
we
like
run out of time a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I need to fit this in, this in, this in.
Yeah.
Where does reflection come into that?
And they're not. And of course, yeah, I do think we're getting better.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think we're getting better, and I think because there's a lot more light being shown on. And like, I mean, you look at the popularity of people like Joe Rogan, for example.
Yeah.
I know we're having that conversation, but that kind of wide-ranging conversation around like what's not working, you know, and also then solutions off the back of you know, a lot of the conversations that they talk about. Yes, it's deep and what have you, but there's a lot of stuff in that to unpick and move forward.
Other people to listen to within it that you can go down their paths and start pick and mixing.
Yeah, but it has to be that own personal study, I guess.
Yes.
You know, I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy being at school, because I actually enjoyed being at school, but I didn't enjoy learning at school. You know, the two different things. Enjoyed being at school, but didn't really enjoy the
school
process
had on offer.
of learning. But since leaving school, I've learnt more through self-study and actual, you know, being interested in the things that I'm interested in than I think I ever did at school. You know? But
Found your tennis balls.
Yeah, but I just wonder whether that's true of most people. Do they still continue to go and ask the questions? And it kind of brings you back to the questions of, you know, that why do I do this? You know, is there a reason why I'm X, or, you know, all that kind of stuff?
Was there a pivotal moment in your journey where that became a thing for you, or was it more conditioned to you of keep questioning, keep being curious, keep asking these penetrating questions to people?
I think there's one great thing about network marketing, that is that, just trying not to keep hitting that, is that you're kind of enforce is a very strong word, but I'll use it, to go on this personal development quest, because fundamentally you're doing something that requires you to have your own motivation to go and make shit happen. Yeah. You know, there's no boss. You know, it's like I've got a few thousand or whatever distributors within my organisation, and they are, so if we looked at it in plain English, like I've got, I don't know, let's say 1,500, 2,000 distributors, but employ nobody. So there has to be this kind of intrinsic motivation or exterior motivation to help these people move forward and get what they came to the company for in the first place. And you can only do that by self-development
and development.
Yeah. In funnily enough, mindset, and but it's not even mindset, it's more action set. You know, as in like actually, because you can read all the books, you can do all the thing, but if you never like pull the trigger, you just aim and don't shoot. So being exposed to that world. In fact, here's a funny story for you. Have you heard of a guy called Tony Robbins? Yeah, of course. Everybody. Well, actually, no, not everybody, because I spoke to one of my customers of the day. Had no clue who it was.
Get rid of them.
Oh no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. But I'll tell you off mic why the irony is that he didn't know who it was. So I actually. This is irony actually for personal development. I stole my first personal development CDs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gotta get somewhere somehow.
Well, actually, no. I say I stole. No, I did steal them. I mean, because I just didn't give them back. When I say
tenacity.
When I say I stole them, that it's kind of like it's a little bit ambiguous, because they were in the gym office down, which was just a junk room. Yeah. I won't name where this gym was, but in the junk room, and they were there for a year before. I kept seeing them, and then went to a personal development seminar in London, because we managed to get like free tickets because this guy'd come over from America. He was trying to break the UK and what have you. And he was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. And came back and thought, look, these things have been here for a year. Like, nobody's like claimed them. Nobody, I'd asked around the gym or asked in the gym office, nobody knew who they belonged to. So I picked them up, and it was Unleash the Power Within and Design Your Destiny. So Date with Destiny was his live show, and it was Design Your Destiny. And I just wore them out. Like,
really?
Like just one for, particularly I honed in on the financial freedom one. And that I must have gone through that hundreds of times.
Would you try and ever regurgitate and sell that as yours? And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've all been there.
No, absolutely not. Like, the thing is it served its purpose of the time, because it then sent me off the sort of voyage of discovery, as it were, on what else is out there, which kind of practitioners, and they all kind of say the same things. Yeah. And once you've seen that they all kind of say the same things, then actually there's obviously some truth in it, because they're all saying the same things. Yeah. Or they just ripped each other off and they're all laughing somewhere.
I think there's a concept, a universal truth within it.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's like what I said about I'm not a nutritionist. Like half of those aren't psychics. They're not psychologists or any of that kind of stuff. Again, they're peopleists. Like Tony Robbins will say exactly the same. He focuses on behaviours and what people do through working with thousands and millions of people. There are patterns, and all he understands is patterns. And then you apply principles to patterns, and you get a certain outcome. And that's the same. I believe that's the same thing for anything. If you want to go lift weights, there's a certain amount of principles you have to put in place with the patterns to get the outcome. If you want to stop or prevent a young teen from going off the rails, there's certain patterns leading up to that, and there's certain principles that you can apply for them to not go off said rails. So
completely,
it just sent me on I suppose a more practical journey of, okay, so I want to know a little bit more about that. So I'm going to go and find, like, okay, so who's the Tony Robbins of that world? And it doesn't matter whether it's crypto, business, or whatever it is. Like, there are the same people, pillars, that are going to teach you the principles and the patterns that.
And then you find your own way of telling that eventually and deploying that in a different way. Yeah. So they're all telling the same thing. It's for you to go on their path, follow their mission, and then suddenly, as you keep on going down that path, you find your own sort of niche ways of doing things. I found that. We said we wouldn't go to education. I promise not to go too deep in it. But so many amazing things you've said there. I just wondered, how would you imagine that being implemented in education? Where does it miss out on helping people do that self-discovery and self-talk a little bit?
Can I say everywhere?
Yeah. Instead of this, here's a question, what's the answer?
Yeah.
That sort of, here's a question, what's your answer? What could your answer be? And helping people think laterally a little bit. Yeah.
Well, actually, if someone says, here's the question, what's the answer? Then if you answered with, here's your answer, then that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really great question. I'm taking some time on it because I want to give a reasonable answer. And I also don't want to, bash educators because it's not their fault. We said about broken systems, like
my partner's a teacher,
Yeah, well, my dad was a lecturer for most of his adult life, teaching plumbing, heating, gas, electricity, and all that, after he finished a career with the family business doing the same. So, I get it, but I also see like how that affected him from the education standpoint, almost, trying to change what needs to be changed and then getting shafted as a result. Yeah. So, I think when you try and manage young people as part of a business, there's always going to be problems. Like, because fundamentally, like schools, particularly secondary schools and what have you now, they're kind of run like bad businesses.
Competing the one down the road kind of thing. And
yeah, and like the whole, and I don't know that much about, and this is a disclaimer, I don't know that much about the whole education system. All I kind of know is that it's, go to school, get a job, leave, go to school, go to university, leave there with lots of debt, go into a job, have to pay debt back, and will you go into the job that you studied for in the first place? I think rather than sitting back and looking at kids, and I know, because there'll probably be teachers listening going, well, budgets and this and all that kind of stuff, and we have oversized classes and get it all. Broken system.
Yeah.
You can't fix it, or it can't be fixed certainly overnight. But if you look at people, young people as a kind of blanket, and try and force them down a route that they're supposed to go down rather than where they're supposed to go down.
Yeah.
They're two completely different things. So, if you see someone who's fantastically creative, and look, they're not great at maths. Mm-hmm. So teach them how to use a calculator, teach them life maths, and let them be as creative as they want to be, rather than letting the poor little bastard struggle with simultaneous equations. And when I say this, I'm talking about myself, because when I was at school, I was more into my kind of drama and music, technology and music and that kind of stuff. Shit at maths. Took it 3 times, and got I think the best I got was a D, right? And it just wasn't going to happen because they'd spent half of the time trying to teach me. I mean, when you put words with numbers to get an outcome of something, you've just completely lost me. I couldn't get the numbers bit. You put the words then with numbers and do fucking equations and all that kind of stuff.
Why have we amalgamated English and maths together?
Yeah. I mean, come on. I was okay at English, but now you've put it in with numbers, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Right? So, rather than teaching me, percentages, how I could get a mortgage, how I can understand APR on a credit card, how I can, the stuff that's actually going to, serve me, because I'm never going to be a mathematician. I don't need to put words and numbers together. It should be quite clear at this point that I'm not going to go into a job that requires that level of whatever. But if you teach me how I can do this, which means I can do that, i.e. what VAT means. Yeah.
If you want to buy this drum kit that you're clearly interested in.
How am I going to get taxed when I leave? What's all this area over here? Life maths. And then really heavily allow me to go down the arts and the what have you route, then wicked, because I've done everything that I've needed to do on a D grade maths GCSE. In fact, I've never been asked whether I've had a D grade maths GCSE or not, because when I went to the forces, it was, can you pass the, not, I want to say barb test, but I don't think it was barb. Maybe it was. It was basically a load of questions which just decided whether you were clever enough to go into intelligence right the way down to, I think infantry was the bottom one, and it was anything in between. So the simple fact that I did actually okay at GCSEs, to be fair. I did well in English as a language and all that, and drama and all that kind of stuff. But it really didn't make any difference, because what I did at school has really, I think drama did play a good part in it, because it sort of inadvertently taught me how to public speak, or maybe not even that. Maybe it taught me that I was going to get this massive rush of adrenaline, and that wasn't fear. That was just what happened before you walked out in front of a shitload of people. Yeah. So maybe that was the desensitization training that then took me forward to that. But it's I'm just trying to, have I answered your question?
You have, yeah, completely. And I was imagining then, while you're answering it, imagining it to be deployed the way that we're suggesting it be, and allowing you to explore more, do you think you would have gone on the path that you did end up going on? Because you've had to build a lot of resilience and a lot of strength and make some mistakes through the way. And it's hard to extrapolate, isn't it?
Well, it's the whole sliding door moment, isn't it? It's like, if you'd have done this, would you have done that? If you'd have gone here, would you have gone there? So the short answer is I don't know. But I think if I was kind of to sum up, the answer is that I think there's quite a lot of pressure put on academia. Yes. Maybe on people that don't thrive in an academic environment. you know.
Bang on.
Because I think you can teach anyone anything, and bearing in mind that, you know, like I said, teachers are already strapped to the balls as it is with what they can and what they can't do, and the hours and stuff that they put in. So completely get that, and it's not really their fault. It's not their fault, and it's not their job, I guess.
Well, it's a shame that they've gone in with this thirst for their passion often. They just love this thing to the core. They want to share it. And then they get in this position. They realise the teaching the passion is usually the lowest thing down the rank that they get to do.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm not a parent, and so I choose my words very carefully. So if it was left to me, I'm quite a big... Well, I am a big believer in 100% responsibility for your own actions, own your own shit, sort of thing.
I love that.
So, if I'd got a daughter, what have you, and I saw that she was, I don't know, struggling in maths or what have you, but she excelled in X, I would find an outlet for her to be able to, outside of school, to be able to go and thrive in that area, so she can go and explore that.
And this is what I think we are seeing more of again now. We spoke of the mental health in men and expressing our emotions and stuff more. I think what you just mentioned then I'm seeing more so as well. Being a parent, I'm having these discussions and it feels a little bit less than when I was at school. Oh, he's a bit rubbish at this, he can't do that. And it was a CV of all the things they can't do. Yeah. And now the conversation I'm having with parents that I meet all the time are, oh, they're actually really good at this. So we're not emphasizing on that too much, and that feels really rewarding and good to hear.
If you're hearing that back,
you
know, as well, because, you know, if you look at people who've excelled in kind of anything, you use like a big, I don't know, someone who everybody, like a Richard Branson kind of guy, left school at 15, dyslexic, you know, doesn't really do numbers too well, billionaire. Yeah, you know, it's kind of, I think there's too much, I guess, not listening and too much talking on the kind of... I don't think people are necessarily listening to their pupils maybe as much as they could be, because their hands are tied. You know, like I said, you know, the system doesn't allow that to happen. So it has to then be the responsibility of the parent. There's loads of stuff that I guess kids can get into that doesn't necessarily require too much financial, you know, backing. You just kind of... You can find... There's loads of stuff out there.
Yeah, it's a changing world, isn't it? And there's interesting new systems being brought into society, brought into the communities. Like we've got this night here on the buses. I see forest schools opening up. I see so many different incentives for people to explore now.
Well, I mean, if you look at how far it's come in the last, say, like 40 years, because just as I was born, like sort of early 80s, they were still throwing board rubbers at people. Yeah. You know, and I don't know when back it was that caning was still allowed and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you can just have an accelerated rate of change from that to that, then this shouldn't have to be too long, as long as we've not just kind of hit a almost like a lull in battle of progression. But if you look at the rate of change from X to Y, like old grammar schools, kind of where we are now, you'd kind of like to think that it's still going to evolve in that way. I
think we're just impatient.
Definitely, I'm impatient for just everything. That is a massive character trait of mine, unfortunately.
It's like that saying, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think if you look at it in an optimistic way, and then, you know, you look at a shower of shit on social media, or especially Twitter, and they're just constantly complaining. But, you know, my partner being a teacher, speaking to teachers, I really do think there's a genuine effort to look at things, take that reflection, and change systems.
Yeah. And there needs to be a significant change maker that's willing to kind of, I guess, put their neck on the line in their industry to go, no, it's not working. We need and almost, you know, be like the catalyst for change. But you know, you kind of understand as well that, you know, teachers, just like everybody else, they're tired. They've had a tit full of being, you know, pushed around by either, you know, people who are managing budgets and all this kind of stuff, cutting it here, cutting it there. So you can kind of understand that they're tired, and it's going to take somebody's like serious devotion to that change to produce the rate of change.
These are the conversations that I love, because it brings the balance in all the time. You can listen to certain podcasts or documentaries or anything where it's propagandized, or it just aims fire at something, and it really doesn't look at the other side of the scale. So I love that you seem to be able to do that in all sides of your nature.
Yeah, but I'm also like not trying to give it like a fucking politician's answer either.
Yeah,
it's just I think because
But
I'm a
things are
normal
complex. Like
Yeah.
we
but,
don't look at them complexities often.
no, and you know I'm a normal bloke, and my you know, like I said, my dad was from the education, and my mum was a TA, so like I kind of I've seen it and just seen how it's sort of like. I would be over dramatising it if I said chewed him up and spat him out, but like he got no thanks for giving his life as an educator and trying to make things better and all that kind of stuff, because you just don't get help from above, from the people that are like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. They're not at like ground level, and you see the same in every in every industry. Like the guys, same in the forces, guys at the top have no fucking clue, or they're so now far removed from what's going on at the bottom for the lads that are on the ground than what goes on at the top. The whole ivory tower thing is a real issue in that kind of thing.
And that's interesting, because that's where I was going to go next. Is you went in the forces and you're talking about broken systems, and we're kind of speaking of broken systems, but was that a part of the making of you, the forces? How did how was your experience there?
100%.
And when did you start coming conscious of, it has got its flaws though, as everything?
Yeah, and I think you with everything you look back and everything is a little bit more rose tinted than it was at the time, because I do look back with like fondness on that time. It wasn't. It was a great time, and yes, I would say it's probably instilled some real good stuff in me as
I can
coming
tell.
It's coming through that route. But it's just like anything. Like there's dickheads everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. There's always
Yeah.
So I joined the forces at 19. So I'd gone through the whole. I'd stayed on to do drama, A level drama at sixth form, music technology, so like the soundboardy stuff and what have you. And because I couldn't read music, so I was no good taking my A level on drums and all that kind of stuff, because they expected you to read sheet music and all that kind of stuff. I was like, not happening, love. So tried to fudge my way around being able to stay in and do that. And I took A level French as well. So got to the equivalent of what AS level is now, and it was just too much. It was like, by the time you hit AS level, if you weren't fluent, you were fucked, basically. So that went quickly on one side, focused on the drama thing, and then I'd been playing in bands, and it was kind of I suppose a fork in the road of, do I take this drumming thing seriously, like either move to London or go somewhere where I can, like, that's all I'm going to do, be in a band or whatever. But that didn't really fit too well with someone who's more financially driven anyway, because I knew that it would be a rough old, I'd have a lot of fun, but would have anything to show for it at the end. Didn't read music, so I couldn't really teach drumming to supplement income and stuff like that. So my other sort of, I guess, chosen path was at sort of 14 to about 14, 15, really got into the gym, started taking care of myself, all that kind of stuff. So I'd got a real interest in martial arts and all this kind of stuff, and music. So it was kind of a fork in the road. And at the time I wanted to be a bodyguard. So if I didn't want to, if I couldn't make the drumming thing work, then I wanted to be a bodyguard. And I couldn't kind of pick between the two careers. So I thought, well, am I good enough to go and be a professional drummer and what have you? And I just kind of came to the conclusion that maybe not. So at the time, at 18, 19, I thought I've probably got some time. Whether I thought that or not, I don't know, but that's probably how I would reflect back on it now. Got some time. We can kind of figure this thing out as we go. So I went and did what they called back then was a look at life. Basically, you go down and get beasted by the forces, and I'd chosen I wanted to go in the Paras. Well, I couldn't choose. It was either the Paras or the Marines. Now, I was built for Marines, but I couldn't decide whether I'd go and join the Paras or the Marines. So I flipped a coin. Legit flipped a coin. I mean, we were talking about sliding doors and all that kind of stuff, where it puts you. So, flipped a coin, it landed on Paras. So, went down and did a look at life down in Aldershot, which was a real eye-opener. One, at how fit I wasn't, but, it was just kind of like it was still back in the day where I suppose, like, the Paras were allowed to be Paras, if you know what I mean, because they were the naughty boys of the forces.
Old school.
Yeah, proper old school. I mean, I remember one bit, and I actually found out, like, I just heard a few of the actual paras talking of the Look at Life thing. Some guy were at so if you've ever been you probably won't. I've been in a forces cookhouse. So it's basically like a massive school dinners kind of set out, right? And I'm like queuing along, like little like 17, 18-year-old, like walking along with putting my finger on. There was literally this huge para dude at the side of me. Like, he'd got his knife out. I mean, like Bowie knife that he was just walking around with on his belt. Like, just stabbing. I mean, how he wasn't dragging his knuckles and grunting, I'll never know. But he was like stabbing. It was like bacon and sausages and just putting them on his plate, like,
wow.
like, yeah, just, I don't know. But anyway, stabbing it. And then it got to the beans, and I thought, this is going to be really fucking interesting. I thought, he's got to use the ladle. He has got to use the ladle. Oh no. Scooped it up on his knife,
wow.
legit, started tipping it onto like the
sound like caveman, me no knife.
That was pretty much it. But I heard later on that, like, all the other lads thought he was an absolute chiseler, so that made it feel better. They were kind of like, yeah, don't look at that dickhead and think that's what we are. He's just an exception to the rule.
Thank God.
So yeah, that was a massive eye opener, by the way, and I thought, it wasn't that bad. Why not? So I went to the careers office and what have you, and did the I'm sure it was called the barb test, where they basically tell you how smart you are or whatever. And I was in there in my suit doing this barb test, and then the guy was like putting this massive pitch on to try and get me to join the Worcestershire and Shield Foresters. So a few years, I don't know how many years ago it is now, but they disbanded all of the home regiments. So you would have had like Worcestershire and Shield Foresters, which are home regiment, all infantry. You've had like the Staffords, and you've had all these different cap badges, and then they just all amalgamated to become, I think it was the Rifles or something along those lines. So it was just like one infantry unit that was then broken down. And he said, well, we can get some tests out of the way if you want. I'm in a suit and tie and all this kind of stuff. He was like, do you want to do your pull-ups? I was kind of, not really, but I will. He was like, jump on there. If you can do 10, then I'll put you forward for your para-reg depot test and all this kind of stuff. So I'm there swinging from this thing, like just banging out like 10. But I didn't realise I was being cocky at the time, because he said, I said, do you want a wide grip or do you want it? Oh no, he was like, you being funny. I was like, no. He was like, yeah, underhand only, full hang. So he just took the piss, and I was like, I must have been up there for like 2 minutes, just like long hang. You had to do 10 chest to bar, but it was like full extension on this kind of stuff. So sweating my ass off in like my shirt and suit and t-shirt, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, past the barb test thing, he says, well, you can actually go into I think I'd like scored high enough to do something else other than like infantry or whatever, but I got my heart set on going in the paras, and that was it. So started at Lichfield, which was the basic training in, I think it was 672 platoon, and we started with 72. I think we started with 72 going through for para-reg, and I'm sure we only passed out 30.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure it was only 30, because I remember the original, then after phase 2, there was only 12 from the original 75 got through. Oh shit, sorry.
Yeah, mate, it's what were you doing then in terms of where people, was it long ass runs, just constant graft?
A lot of it was
like asleep.
I would say if I looked at it in kind of like percentages, I reckon we probably lost 50% through injury, I would say.
Really?
Yeah,
was it real injury?
And injury.
Yeah. It's exactly what come to my head.
Yeah, injury and injury, yeah. There's a lot that was just like, look, it's not for me. A few transferred out and what have you. Some were just, they were kind of just told by the DS staff, this isn't for you, that kind of thing. And some just kept getting back squatted and all that kind of stuff. So I made it through like the basic training really without too much of a hitch. But I mean, I'd gone in far too heavy, like realistically, because paras move fast and carry. I won't say they carry less weight, but they're renowned for moving a lot quicker across the ground than maybe the Marines are. There's like Marines listening to it now, like smashing up the car and all this kind of stuff. No, listen, lads, it's all good. But yeah, so I should have probably gone Marines way because there's a lot more like rope climb, a lot more upper body related stuff than I had. I lost 3 stone in the first 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
3 stone?
Yeah, because it's 12 weeks basic training and I came home. So you have like a almost like a half long weekend break once you've done those first 6 weeks. So it's like first 6 weeks, like no real contact with that. Yeah, you have contact like if you want to phone them at night or anything like that, but it's kind of like, let's keep you out of Civvy Street, let's get you changed over to being a soldier and what have you. Went home in the middle and I'd lost like I'm sure it was 3.5 stone.
What happened when you got home? Was everyone like, what are they doing to you over there?
No, I think, and also because I got a proper bonehead, like as in shaved head and what have you as well. No, I was just like fit as a fiddle.
Wow.
So came back, went passed out of the basic, and then we went up to Catterick. Oh, what a shithole! Catterick is awful.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, it's awful.
Where's that?
Up towards Scotland way.
Okay.
So you've got like
I know
Thirst,
the Marines go to
Darlington.
Sandhurst, is it?
No, Sandhurst's officers. They go to Lympstone.
Oh, Lympstone. That's
so
it.
like, right on the coast.
Right.
So yeah, we went up to Catterick. That was like. It was. You know how I'd said about the French AS level to French A level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where you had to be fluent.
Whole different ball game. And also we'd had a Christmas break, so we'd had 2 weeks off for Christmas, and then gone and presented up at Catterick for, I think it was the first week in January or something like that. Now it was like just whether it was rain, snow, or other, it's just the arsehole of the UK. Sorry for anybody who lives in Catterick, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Catterick back area is not one that you want to spend any particular time on. So, long story short, went through phase 2 training, completed everything I needed to complete, and there's like P company is like what you have to pass to get to go onto the final exercise and then go and get your jump. So once you pass P company, you get your maroon beret and what have you. But before that, you have a beat up week. So beat up week is, as it sounds, it's actually harder than P company week to get you prepared to go on and do the P company. So like P company consists of P company 10 miler is, so that's 10 miles in an hour 50, 10 miles in an hour 50, or it was, I don't know whether it's changed, it probably hasn't changed, but yeah, 10 miles an hour 50 with full
How much is that weighing?
35 pounds plus webbing, water and weapon.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's cheeky, that's awful.
So just when you're at Lichfield and you've passed with 30 people really.
Yeah.
Is it 30 people are in this place now, and where was it?
Yeah, we all go together.
You all go to, so it's them 30 that go together?
Yeah, so everyone comes into like what was Rhine Platoon at the time.
Amazing.
And then for whatever reason, it's like comes down, and then bang, you pass out.
We've got a creme de la creme.
Well, you've got, no, you haven't. You've got the best of the worst.
I love it. Man.
and then they hoof you off to get.
Where did you sit in there? Were you kind of
at the back?
Were you really?
Well, I was at the back for a lot of things, and I was at the front for other things. So
okay.
I've always been a good shot. So every time I'd done the weapon handling and the test for weaponry, it was marksman, which was one of the highest marks.
Okay.
But for running, I was at the back, and how I didn't get back squatted, I'll never know. I think a lot of it was like I had so much pain in my legs. It was like crazy. My legs just would not recover like fast enough. So things like climbing the rope, like things like I said for upper body and all that kind of stuff, push-ups, the whole shebang, great. But timed runs, just awful. But I got to a point where I improved to enough to be mid-table. So I was sort of stuck in around mid-table. I was fine there, trying to be the grey man, not being seen and all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to stand out for anything. You don't want to be shit or anything, because both stand out. So you kind of just want to be in the middle and just sort of get through without anything else. But my admin was always squared away, so like I tried to make up in other areas that I had the spotlight on me in. in other ways of like good soldiering. So whether that's like map reading or like I say, weaponry, all that. But yeah, it was just running that was just so difficult at the time. And went up to, and then we went up to Catterick. So like round by Lichfield where we were running and all that kind of stuff, it was fairly flat. It wasn't particularly hilly. It was, you know, fairly flat. Went up to Catterick, different kettle of fish. So you now put being average at best in a squadron of like decent fitness guys to just hanging out my arse on a daily basis.
So like professional runners in essence. And
well, I wouldn't even go that. They were just I don't even know what it was. Maybe it was mindset thing. Maybe it was just, you know, I'd gone from being sort of mid-table to now like, and then the ante's gone up again because now we're moving at so much more speed. There's more weight coming on because it's progressive, isn't it? You've got to progress. Of course. So then in and amongst blisters and all that kind of shit, scrabbled my way through to P Company Beat Up Week and then prolapsed a disc in my back. Ooh. So that was pretty much end X. So completed everything I need to do by end exercise and the actual P Company, and then P Company Beat Up Week. I think there's maybe I can't remember how, maybe it was 2 weeks left to pass out after that, I think, and it was because we were talking like this was 2000, so we're talking 22 years ago. So I don't know how much of it has changed by now, what have you, but yeah, P Company consists of the 10 mile in an hour 50, 2 miles in, I want to say 15 minutes. I'm sure it's 15 minutes. I could be wrong. It might be 18 minutes. With pack on and everything. The P Company 2 miler is just the worst thing in the fucking world. Then you've got stretcher race, log race. I think stretcher race is 7 miles, 4 blokes, 15 stone, trailer track. And I can't remember if you still or I can't remember back then whether we carried the general purpose machine guns. So I could no.
Did they have ammo in?
They don't need to. They're fucking heavy enough.
I was just going to say, but
no, they're heavy bits of kit. Machine gunners.
I was wondering if they tested you if you could run with it while it's got ammo in, and if you were dangerous with that sort of.
That would be done on the Rangers.
Yeah, I get you.
And that generally comes like later. So
okay.
you won't do. So GMPG is a general purpose machine gun.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that until you're in. Battalion, really.
Full training.
Well, until you've gone to regiment,
yeah,
and then you'd either be segregated down to mortars or gunners or rifles. So it was just it was really pure fitness and have you got it up here?
When did the prolapse disc come in then? What happened?
I was on the P Company 10 miler beat up. It was the stupidest thing. I mean, I was hanging out my arse anyway, and I just wasn't concentrating. And there's just potholes and just fucking everything everywhere. Put my foot down, pothole. I thought it was I'd twisted my ankle, but I actually hadn't. I'd gone to one side, and the Bergen had kind of gone the opposite way.
Oh, man.
So it was like a side lateral movement that just went like that. So
I avoided surgery, but
it was horrible.
You had surgery, did you?
No, I avoided it. Luckily.
Oh, okay.
I managed to go through like all of the manipulation and what have you, but it was just like index. They were like, you're not gonna.
Oh man!
I didn't want to get back squatted, so and they wouldn't let me jump. So because obviously you don't know what's going to happen when you hit the ground when you go. If you pass, so let's say I'd gone back through the whole thing, they might not have let me jump out of because you hit the ground when you're parachuting with all your kit.
What did that do to your mentality then? You literally just endured probably one of the hardest things a person can go through in terms of.
I was just, to be honest, I'm trying to think back at the time. I was just like, I don't even know whether I was philosophical about it. I was just like, I've probably had enough now. I was probably at the point where I was just like, do you know what?
We are where we are.
Yeah, what else can I do? So I transferred over to the Army Air Corps. So I did a bit of research and I was looking at like how the paras came about, glider pilot regiment and all this kind of stuff, which then came to be the Army Air Corps. So I went over there. The funny thing was, I recovered absolutely fine. Went from being the worst fitness to being the absolute best fitness in like the regular forces.
Of course.
And so it just showed the difference between like the two. So yeah, it's not long story short. From being absolutely really shit at fitness, I went through, passed out with those guys.
Was it chalk and cheese? Did you find that a piece of piss in essence?
Yeah, and I obviously don't want to piss anybody off.
No.
By saying it, but like the difference is because they're bred to do different things.
Yeah.
Like paras are bred to go in and kill the enemy.
Yeah.
That's it. That shit bust. There is no other job description. Whereas the Army Air Corps is much more of a, I suppose, a supportive role to that. So yes, you can do door gunning, so you can fire the machine gun outside the helicopter and all that kind of cool stuff, and whatever. They've got some really good stuff, but it's more aviation based than ground strike, seize, kill kind of.
So yeah,
process.
what happened to you then? You've had the transfer.
Yeah.
You're finding it a bit of a piece of piss.
Well, I wouldn't say I was finding it a piece of piss because it was funny. I pushed myself more because I was excelling than when I was like struggling to keep up within the two. So
did you feel you were becoming a bit of a role model for people in that?
No, I didn't
No.
really look at it like that. I was definitely there was, I suppose, a difference in like the team player kind of thing because we'd been through like quite like the shit exercises that you do. It was like that time in Catterick, from a physical perspective, was just a miserable time, both mentally and fit. But it's kind of like, it's funny because I think back those days quite often, in that I just think, well, I don't really have bad days, like because bad days is whether it's out in Iraq or all that kind of stuff. But
you've been pushed to an extreme.
Yeah, it's like I could be sat in a ditch shivering and what have you, waking up every 2 hours to go and play war games and stuff and just be completely miserable. So this isn't that, so suck it up.
Do you feel to some degree that's why people do face such adversity in life, because they're nullified and they've not actually faced true extreme hardship?
Sometimes, but I guess it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah. I like that saying, your worst day is your worst day, to some people.
Yeah.
We've got different thresholds.
Yeah, or different reference points.
Yeah.
It's like if you take someone who's bitching about, I don't know, their gas and electricity going up by £100, or you go and take them to the cancer ward at a hospice for kids that are under 10, like it's like you don't really have any problems. That's a solution that you can go and find. No solution here. So just get a bit of, and it's not like playing down the whole cost of living shit and what have you, but it's a different reference point.
Yeah.
It's like your bad day is this person's best day. So, just maybe have a little bit more of a balanced view to it.
That's it. So how long were you there for then?
I sort of fannied around in in like no man's land for a little
expression.
bit. No, well, it was I was just fanning around in no man's land until it was a point that I could go and get interviewed. So I interviewed in, fine, passed, and went into the Army Air Corps, did all their stuff, and then, funnily enough, the moment I sort of set foot on the ground in my new regiment, which was 3 Regiment Army Air Corps down in Watsham, I walked into the Sergeant Major's office, like big northern guy who was like just spade a spade, like great bloke. It was like, what do you want to do? And I just went, I'd like to be a PT. I'd like to go and work in the gym. So I went and did my physical training instructor course, which is what's called all arm. So everybody goes in together, Paras, Marines, the whole thing. You go down, funnily enough, to Aldershot, and you go down to the Army School of Physical Training, like past there, which is, it's not an easy course to pass. It's not like major graph, but it's not easy either. And went down, got my cross swords, which is like the PTI thing, and then came back and pretty much worked in the gym. You're still a serving soldier because we deployed out to Iraq in 2003. But you're a soldier first, as they say, but then you have your own role. So we're just responsible for regimental fitness, everything from assault course to the basic physical fitness tests that you have to put the lads through, remedial training, like everything physical. That's what we.
How are you treated in that role? Do people?
Oh, ledge. There's two. There's 2 people that you don't piss off in the forces. One's a chef and one's a PTI, because it doesn't matter what rank you are. We've got the ability to.
You're either going to get salty food or a salty workout.
Yeah, either or. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And then you're there for that amount of time. When did you come out of the army?
When did I?
Yeah.
It was January 14th, 2006.
Okay. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, yeah. You know, at the time there was so like I said, we'd been to Iraq in 2003 for the second Gulf Optelic in I think it was February maybe 2003, and all that was kicking off. Afghanistan was kicking off, so it was a case of I got to the point where it was either I wanted to. It was either going to go one or two ways for me. I would have either done a full stretch, full 22 years plus, or it was going to be short and out. So the bodyguard thing kind of disappeared along the way. Don't know why really, because it's always like personal security, all that kind of stuff has always interested me, but maybe not enough to be pulled in that direction as maybe as a career. And having known a few bodyguards. Actually, I'll speak to a good friend of mine, Matt Elliott, see if we can get him on here. He was Michael Jackson's bodyguard. That might have to be a Zoom thing because I know he's a busy guy. And
more than happy to turn that into a Zoom thing.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm sure he'll hook you up. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so that kind of waned. So, and I was getting to the point where I actually fancied having a stab at Special Forces. And then I sort of looked at it and just thought, nah. It was just one of those. It was like, this is either going to be like full balls to the wall, go for it.
I've done this enough now,
and I can't be half-arsed at going and doing it.
Is
so
the juice
it was
worth
just
the
like,
squeeze?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, probably not. And the PT core. So there's a core that you can go to, which basically is where it runs all of the forces. Fitness and programming and all that kind of stuff, but they'd slowed down the rank progression. So when you went into the PT core, you get upgraded to essentially a sergeant. But because the core was too top heavy, so they got too many higher ranks and not enough smaller ranks, they'd time barred the rank progression for 6 years a pop. So it would have been more like career suicide to go and do that and have the career stalled should I have gone for a 22-year career. So it was time to bug out, and I left the forces on the Friday. I was training in the gym. I was training in Fitness First, actually, what was in Derby on the Monday. And she said, do you want a job? I was like, well, yeah. Because my plan was to go to the States and do all that kind of stuff. Didn't happen for one reason or another. So I was like, yeah. And then from there, I went to David Lloyd.
So you had explained, I'm looking at getting out, actually, to that person.
No, I was out. I left the forces on the Friday. And I'd already got my personal training qualifications because I'd done the army ones, and I was just training. She was like, "What are you doing with yourself?" I was like, "Not sure just yet," which is a bad plan to have. Don't do that. And she said, "Do you want a job?" I was like, "Yeah, cool. What's the deal?"
Was there anything philosophical that got you to leave as well? Do you know, when we were discussing before about flaws in systems and institutions, was there anything, a conundrum inside that was making you feel unrest or unease?
I don't think from like a treatment point of view, or treatment that I saw of others, because the forces, unless you've been in, it's very hard to explain what it's like because it is it's
like describing
sexist,
honey,
misogynistic, racist environment. And I say that in a that it shouldn't be like that, but it is like that because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's football.
And obviously there's elements of that in everything. But it wasn't a reason for me wanting to leave. If anything, I suppose it was more so a claim to my freedom in that somebody could say something that meant that I was over the other side of the world in a heartbeat.
Yes.
So I had no real control over my own freedom. Which, if you kind of surrender yourself to that, and that's just how it is because that's the way of life, then cool. But because at that point I was like, do I go and try and see what it's like on the outside? Go make it work on the outside, and also being surrounded by barbed wire and fences and all that kind of stuff all the time is, it's not
natural,
conducive to I suppose a balanced mindset, I guess. But I had a great time in the forces, and it was it taught me a lot of great stuff, gave me a lot of really good useful skills, and I would recommend it to any person that is maybe, you know, slightly lost in what they want to do. And you know, I'm a big believer of that we'd have so much less shit going on if they brought back things like national service. So if you're not going to go into, you know, higher education, or you're not going to go to college or into a trade, or, you know, if you don't have a plan, going and doing some stylized version of national service, I think we would see youth crime, youth offending, knife crime, all that kind of shit drop dramatically.
I really do agree with you there. I suppose me talking to you and this person in front of me seems very self-aware and thoughtful of your actions, and I suppose when you've got constraints by other people, I can't imagine you living that to its entirety for a long period of time.
Well, it's funny because I fucking hate people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Like, and I have a real issue. So I suppose my triggers, I guess, are if, like, how I'm spoken to. Like, if someone speaks to me in a certain way, you'll get anything and everything out of me.
Yeah.
If you speak to me a certain way, you get nothing out of me, or you'll get what you don't want.
I know exactly where you're at there.
Do you know what I mean? It's a weird thing. I think because I got promoted quite quickly, I didn't get the shittier end of the stick, I suppose, because it's one of those places where you have to toe the line, you have to conform, because there's a reason being is that when someone barks an order at you and tells you to do something, it's for a reason. Because if I'm telling you what to do in a war zone and you're giving me I can't because of insert snowflake
have
response,
you thought about this?
It's no fucking get it done, because they're looking at things from a completely different set of eyes than you are, and this needs to be done because of this. So it's kind of like when you understand, like, the fish, the pond you're swimming in, you're kind of okay with it. It's like then when you're in a different pond, like, the two don't marry together. Do you know what I mean?
I completely. I love the way you articulate it. So when you're coming away from that, you're back to the gym. How was that process for you? Was there comfortability there? Easy as
well, no, it was
and
because
more freedom.
Like what it was so funny. I had
Oh, my phone.
Surely that's schoolboy error or something like that.
Mate, that was on YouTube. I do it all the time.
I think that, you have to have like a £10 donation for.
It's going in the kitty, mate. For the charity.
It's good you haven't got a swear jar. Yeah, where were we?
Coming back into society, I'm going to quote unquote normality.
Yeah, because I'd always had a foot, I guess, in Civvy Street. So, you know, I would come back quite regularly. So, like, there's a big misconception of when you're in the forces that, you know, it's like you're locked in and it's like a 9-to-5 job. It really is. It's just you live at that job on base or what have you. So, you know, you would have, like, say, like I'd have like a shift, as it were, in the gym, and, you know, on I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'd take the remedials out, we'd come back, and then we'd do the squadron fitness, and then we'd do what have you, like knock off, clean some kit, whatever it is that we needed to do. So, like, on a Friday, if we had nothing to do, we'd knock off at like 12 and we'd just head home or what have you. So I'd come home, so, you know, I'd go out with the boys and do all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't institutionalized to a point that it was like difficult to come back into. No, and it was only really, I suppose it's the equivalent time of going to uni, you know, so like 5 and a bit years. Or what have you. You know, actually, it's probably a bad analogy, really, because like you do see a lot of people cling on to that uni kind of attitude when they leave. But, you know, I didn't particularly. I suppose I hung on to like the work ethic and the kind of like, if I'm up early, if I'm working late, it doesn't kind of matter sort of thing, as long as I've got a cup of tea and a shower. It's all right. So I suppose integrating like back into society was never going to be a problem.
Yeah, I had a friend that was in the Marines, but for quite a long period of time.
Which is hugely different.
Yeah, and he was explaining it wasn't the PTSD style of the things that he'd witnessed that everyone expected him to be explaining, but his struggle was just, he was so institutionalized. It was booking the dentist, going getting your food.
Yeah.
They were the things he couldn't comprehend, and the things that led him to quite deep depression.
The real lack of urgency in, right, so in not so much in regiment, but certainly in training. If you walk anywhere, you're getting absolutely smashed. It's like you're running. Like you just run. They call it cutting about. You cut about from place to place, like quickly with purpose and what have you. And I think probably the hardest part for me when I came out is that just people didn't snap quick enough. They didn't just do stuff quickly enough, and couple that with an impatient personality anyway. That bit was, and also how I was training people as well. But it was kind of the way that I was training people helped me get clients, because it was at that time where British military fitness was just starting to come on the scene, like training in the parks and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of beasting mentality. So less skill, more beasting. That was in favour, or that was the workout chic of the time, if you know what I mean. So, which again was very different to beasting people at David Lloyd than it was to beasting squaddies in the forces. But they loved it, so I could kind of where I lacked the soft skills originally for doing that, it actually still played into my favour because that's what people wanted. So yeah, I had to sort of knock some corners off when I came out and in my instructional sort of capability. But it didn't take kind of long to drift back into it's okay kind of mentality. But I can totally understand ex-forces, whether it's PTSD or otherwise, how just everything's very different. Especially it's very different. I mean, we've been in the longest peacetime in I think maybe history by now, where I'm pretty sure it maybe even was Iraq was maybe the last, was Iraq the last major conflict that we had? Possibly. I mean, to obviously take Ukraine out of the mixer, but yeah, I'm pretty sure maybe that was the last conflict. My brain's gone, but we've been in the maybe Afghanistan,
Syria?
I suppose, post. Syria would have been. We didn't really get involved too much. It was more. It'd have been Afghanistan probably, actually, which would have been the longest issues that we had to help with. So yeah, I mean, the boys that went over there, there's some serious stuff being dealt with.
Complications.
Yeah. But we'll probably not go down that rabbit hole, because that one will be it.
We'll stay with you today, mate. I've been more than willing to do more podcasts with you, though, because you are brilliant.
Oh, thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Just getting to it then. You've gone down the personal training route back home.
Mm-hmm.
When does it become you're becoming a fully formed business?
Okay, so well, to be honest, I hated PT.
Yeah.
I started it and I went and did.
That's odd.
I know. Well, because I got the qualification. I got the level 2 qualification through. The level 3 qualification because of what I'd done in the forces. So the 3-month all arms training course gave you all the anatomy and physiology. It gave you all the things that you would do on a PT course, but it was kind of multiples versus one-on-one. So because it was registered as a personal training qualification, David Lloyd then put me through the National Academy of Sports Medicine level 3. So it was like double PT. And then I went back and did the performance enhancement specialist with NASAM as well. And you know what the funny thing is you can very quickly get locked into this route of, I'd said earlier about being a peopleist. Well, actually going and doing all those other courses and getting more educated in that area didn't make me a fucking better PT. It didn't make me anywhere better, because the clients that I was serving didn't need the things that I was educating myself in. They needed someone to listen, to be accountable to, and to help them lose a couple of stone.
Human skills.
Yeah, and none of that was taught on the course.
So they could justify what they were doing, in essence.
It's such a strange, and I know you've got friends that are PTs and all that kind of stuff, and everybody has their own way, and that's cool. That just wasn't my way. My way was give them some principles to eat a little bit better, to move a little bit more, and enjoy what they're doing, because people are only ever going to do what they enjoy. Anything that they don't enjoy, for me, becomes unsustainable. That includes eating, that includes working out. Most people don't like working out. Why? Because it fucking hurts. There's a pain associated to it. So it's understandable why they don't want to do it. So if you can prescribe someone to maybe do a few extra 1,000 steps over what they would be normally doing, and just maybe swap that pint for that gin and slimline tonic, hey presto, what have you done? You've increased the calorie burn, you've taken the calories down, you're going to lose weight, because that's how it works.
Science.
It's science. It's just being made complicated by fucking idiots. That are trying to over-educate the process. Move more, eat less. It's it's fairly straightforward. Obviously, there's nuances where medical issues are and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I didn't need a best part of 18-week course to teach me that. So, yes, it was great. If they'd have put me on a sales skills course, I'd have been a much better PT.
Yeah.
Because I'd have been able to actually sell the skills that I already had much better to the people that wanted it and learn actual human skills and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if there are any PTs listening, don't do any more fucking courses. You don't need them. You're great enough as it is. Go and do a sales course so you know how to get people in, and marketing course, because they're two different things. People don't think that they're two different things. They actually are. You know, learn how to market, learn how to sell, and learn how to close. And the rest of the skills you already have, you can crack on and build a really nice business. Sorry, I just thought I'd do like a public service announcement.
Well, I do little cut-ups of this podcast, and that's going to be one.
Oh, cool.
I think that's an ace bit of advice.
But you could probably put on this bit then that I fucking hated PT. So, well, I didn't hate it. It's just
why PTs are shit.
Well, I took on clients that maybe I shouldn't have. In that, you know, I kind of became a moaning post. For them, even, and also the pay was shit. You know, most PTs, I think it's 7 out of 10 PTs are out of the industry in the first 3 years. I'm sure that was the statistic I read, because the pay shit. You don't earn any money, and you're at the client's beck and call, working stupid hours, and insert all the rest. So I found that actually moving towards group fitness was where like my passion lied, because, you know, I loved music, I loved exercising. I'd come from a place where I was, you know, exercising with, if we were doing a squadron, then it might be 50, 60 blokes right the way up to regimental. It could be 200, 300, 400 all at once. And it was much more of a buzz because you've got everything cutting about, you've got this, that and the other. And, you know, I enjoyed it so much more. And because of health and safety, I wasn't allowed to train with my clients. So because I enjoyed training, and I think that was the thing. I became a PT because I enjoyed training, because when I was in the forces, that's what we did. So if we were going out on a squatted run or march or whatever, we were there doing it with them.
Yeah.
Come out, do PT. Oh no, now you stood at the side of a treadmill, or you're watching Mrs. Jones do medicine ball, whatever. And it's not the same thing. So quickly also realised that actually because at this point I was now running the studios at David Lloyd. I was a studio manager, so I could put myself on the timetable so I could do the classes. I could be a freelancer and not be on the books, so I could charge 20-25 quid an hour to go do the classes and train at the same time.
You've got it together, man. I'm loving this.
I would say that. No. But then I was doing PT, a £45 PT session. I was being pimped out for, and I was receiving like $12.50 before tax. I was like, hang on a minute. And it would take me more. I liked it less. So it was like, hang on a minute, let's see where I can do what I enjoy, pay myself more, and have a workout at the same time.
This is brilliant advice, because I don't think people understand how, when you think you want something, they don't do enough equation and looking into it. And it's be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. Yeah. So I want to be a PT. What, do you want to stand there and watch somebody do it? No, I love training. I want to help people do. Yeah. And you've done that conversation with yourself and gone further down the scale, and then ended up where you rightfully belong. Yeah. Because you did a bit more self-awareness and questioning.
Well, it's kind of like if somebody says to me that they're a PT, and let's say they're, I don't know, late teens, early 20s, I will literally say, look, I don't want to smash your dreams to pieces, because by all means you go do you, but just let me give you this idea, right? Who are you going to market to? Oh, well, you know, like people like me, people like you can't afford people like you. So who's going to buy your services? You know, there's not many people who are, I don't know, early, that kind of mid-20s or what have you, that are going to pay you 35, 40 quid an hour for PT. They're just not. So your market actually isn't where you are. Now, are you going to have a PT that's going to be servicing 40 to 50, maybe even 60-year-olds, where they've got expendable income, they can afford you for one, but now you're not relevant to them. So now they've got a kid that's training like a 40 to 60-year-old person, which is a sweet spot really for PTs. And, you know, unless you're a specialist that can do body transformation in, like, for example, I don't know, that want to do competing or physique and all that kind of stuff, like a real sort of more of it's not so much niche now, but it kind of was like back then. It's then your market is not where you think it is. Yeah. So go do what the hell you want before you get to say 40, then go and have your midlife crisis, be a PT at 40, and you'll fucking smash it.
Boom.
Because you've got now relevance. You can talk to them about stuff that they want to talk to you about, because they're not with you because they want any kind of performance. They're with you because they want better health, and they want someone to listen to them and talk to them and be that peopleist kind of person and get them a health result. But they can pay you. They can pay you and you can make some money out of it. Whereas if you're going to go and be a PT at a commercial gym or what have you, then that's going to be 2 hours out of your time. If you're going to say, well, I'll charge £20 an hour, you're going to make no money. Because if you're charging £20 an hour, well, really, you're now on £10 an hour, because if you're a PT, a personal trainer, you're doing half an hour's at least planning of that session for what you're going to do to that person. You're going to do half an hour on the back end because you're going to write up what you've done with them, plus that session that you're going to do the hour with them one-to-one. So now you're at 2 hours, so you're not making 20 quid anymore, you're making a tenner. Then you've had to drive there, so you're now paying for petrol to go drive there. If you're going to see a one-person session or what have you, you're going to drive to the gym, then you're going to drive home. So now you've probably added minimum either 15 to 20 minutes on the end of that. Now you're nearly up to 2.5 hours that you've got to make that 20 quid split over. And that's before the tax man or anyone else.
Not really valuing your time very well, are you?
This is it. So they're pissing in a pond, and there's nothing in it. Do you know what I mean?
So what would your advice be to young people who love training, think I want to get into the industry of it, but don't want to make all those mistakes? What advice could you give?
Like go in and do it, but just do it in a way that serves you. So maybe groups, like small group training and something like that. So if you love training, it doesn't mean you have to go and be a PT. Just love training. Go down that route and have it as a hobby. It's okay to have a hobby that you don't want it necessarily to pay you.
But like that pool that you feel there, where we've mentioned tennis balls, like the dog has a one sight vision there. Think of other tennis balls you can add into your life. And
and the thing is, it's
doesn't have to be hobby I love here, I deplore this thing over here. We do see them always in absolutes, but just find other passions and interests that.
You've got to look at like why you're going in to do it. And is it something that you can actually have a career on the side with? So you can fill your evenings up with it and actually mitigate the downside. So like watch for I watch for the downsides in everything. I'm not risk adverse. I like taking risks and all this kind of stuff, but calculated risks. So if you're wanting to go into that, then my advice would be get a stable job that you're going to learn something to do with the thing that you want to do. So let's say, for example, I don't know, they want to be a PT, for example. So what could they do that actually pays them a half decent wage while it's still within the industry? So I'd look there first. So they're able to learn some stuff, maybe get some courses done for free, which is going to help to do the whole PT thing later on, and then PT around that. So you've got the stable income that you can then build on top of. One, to test whether you like training people and all this kind of stuff, and just feel it out. I wouldn't do one. I would do one to many. So one to many would be okay. So you've got. You want to market to 20, 25-year-olds, okay? So charge them all 20 quid a session, but get 6 of them in that 1 hour period, and do the group training with them, and so on and so forth. And then like, how can you tack on some kind of so there's an ecosystem to those clients, so they're not just paying you for your time, because if you're being paid for your time, then we don't get any of that back. It's like the most precious cargo possible. So how can I utilize and leverage this time spot? So I've got 1, 2, 5, 10 people all paying me £20 a pop, and they're also buying my widget, they're buying my this, my that, my the other, and then they're on direct debit for that as well. So you've now got a sustainable, reliable, and consistent income coming through that then you're able to either like scale or not. Does that make sense?
Mate, this is good free knowledge for people, isn't it? I just think people just go podcast thinking, how good are podcasts? In the term of free information, I think it's so undervalued.
You haven't got my invoice yet.
So. Honestly, because it's not my realm, but there was so much truth in there and elements I could learn from too.
But I didn't know that as a PT.
Transferable.
That's the thing. I didn't know that as a PT, and this is what I'll come back to about like the learning and the personal development and stuff like that. It's if you're a personal trainer, you're a businessman. Actually you're a businessman first, because guess what? If someone's coming knocking on your door to take your car away because you have no clients, then there's a problem there. You know what I mean? So I think because There's a great book. I don't know whether you've read it, and I highly recommend it actually because it translates to a lot of things. It's called The E-Myth by a guy called Michael Gerber. So brilliant book, and it's a brilliant book for anyone in any industry to listen to. And it's about, we have this entrepreneurial seizure. So the entrepreneurial seizure is that you are, I don't know, a mechanic, right? You're a mechanic, you're fixing cars all day long. You get pissed off with the boss because they've seen all these cars come in. They're the ones that have taken the risk and opened up the thing, but you're the mechanic. You're getting paid £10 an hour, whatever it is. And suddenly you go, fuck it, I'm not working for them anymore. I'm going to go open my own garage. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other. And you leave. You go down the road, you open up Barry's Auto Parts and what have you. In you go. Barry's there working away. He's working on cars, but Barry has no idea about how to set up the health and safety, the fire regulations, the legals, the accounting, the marketing, the sales, getting customers through the door. Why? Because Barry's a technician. He works on engines. So it's about working on the business, not in the business. But Barry's had the entrepreneurial seizure, but he wants to start his own thing, but he's working in the business. And then he's unable to actually do the thing he's good at because he's running around chasing his tail, trying to do the accounts, the this, the that, the other, the invoices have to be paid, all this kind of stuff, keeping the lights on, paying the rent, sorting out landlords, all this kind of stuff. And all he wanted to do was fix cars. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a PT kind of goes, or even someone training in the gym goes, I'm going to be a PT, I can do this. It's that entrepreneurial seizure point that's like, well, it's you are the technician. So if you're not working for yourself, then there are other amounts of skills that need to be in place kind of before you go chuck it in the fuck it bucket, I'm going to go on my own.
Fuck it bucket, yeah.
And actually, get some ducks in a row before you sort of leave yourself to.
And everything that we spoke about, be careful what you wish for because you might just get it.
Yeah. And the worst thing to do is to then go, you open your gym and all that kind of stuff, and you're sat in there with all the clients that said they were going to come over, from the commercial gym you were in. They're going to cancel the membership and they're going to come over with you in this marching protest of Johnny, who's been the PT.
I not only think it's
don't think so.
Wonderful advice, but we just seem as a species a lot of the time too stuck in our animalistic fight or flight mode. We make irrational often decisions. I'm going to do this and lead to this and do that because we're imagining the saber-toothed tigers coming around the corner at every opportunity, but we're not. We actually don't realise the value of time, but how much time we've got now. We can sit there, have a bit of breathing space, and truly think about the actuality of if I do X, Y, and Z, what it's going to look like. And if you get that, and you really visualise what that looks like, if the juice is worth a squeeze, go and pursue it and really think about it. But all you're offering here is breathing space for people to consider what it is you actually want.
Yeah,
and what you're heading
like
towards.
I say, it's a really rewarding industry. Like the amount of, I've got a girl who she will literally, if she's giving a testimonial, she'll go, "This guy saved my life" or whatever, because of she's lost 110 pounds, which is like 9 and something stone or whatever, like just completely like turned her life around. So it's really, really super rewarding. But we did that with no gym. Yeah. We did that with just by shifting some principles. There's more than one way to skin a cat is what I'm saying. Is so if you enjoy training like I did, it doesn't mean to say you have to become a PT. There's many different ways that you can go and you can skin a cat.
Do you attribute this to the journey you had in the army, in the paras, why you have the mindset that you have now, and you can give this direct business advice and be quite concise with it? Because I'm aware of your time now as well. We're nearly 2 and a bit hours in.
I know, yeah.
And you've got to be gone by 4, so...
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, awesome.
If we run over slightly, it
amazing. But I want to just, sort of, not conclude, but have a bit of an idea of how have you got to this level in life?
I have no answer to that really, because I don't feel like I even now don't really feel like I've achieved that much, but I suppose that comes with the I guess the downside of comparison. So obviously comparison is the fastest way to feel shit, especially when
I've heard that said in very different ways, but I'm going to go with that one.
It's
the thief of joy, I've heard it in.
I preferred mine.
Yours has got a much direct reason.
So because I suppose I'm not. I'm just as susceptible to everybody else to fall into the trap of looking at the Instagram age world and what have you, and think, shit, I've not really even done anything. But I suppose like everything's a sum of everything, isn't it? So I can't really say that was what it was, because it was. I think because
it's not a simple, clear-cut equation of. So I went to the army, I learnt this stuff,
Yeah.
and now I can deploy this.
It was more about, I guess, like one self-teaching, and it's not even self-teaching because you can self-teach and not do. It's self-doing. I think is the. That sounded better in my head, but you get the point.
No, it's well, that's why I laughed, because it really makes so much sense. I get a lot of people in more the spiritual community, but they talk of the secret kind of thing and laws of attraction style.
Listen, if I sat here, I can sit here and I can squeeze out all of my attraction.
Belief.
My fucking Ferrari Pista is not going to pull up on your drive. One, because it can't get up it.
Yeah,
but two,
there might be signs towards it. Like I could say something. I've got this opportunity, and you're susceptible to it because you have that.
I'm not poo-pooing it because I really believe in the whole vibration.
It's kind of the mode of thinking behind it, and your energy you're emitting, and what you're susceptible to.
Yeah.
But
what I'm getting at is that I can't just sit here and expect it to arrive.
And I think that's a lot of people's problems.
Yeah, it's
true.
Have you read a book called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey?
No, but I listen to everything he says.
Get the book, get it on audio as well, because
Does he read it?
Yeah, he narrates it himself. He's absolutely legend.
I'm just because I love my podcast, and I've probably got into a Joe Rogan, Russell Brand loop, and maybe another podcast in there. But now I've gone into Audible. My first was The Four Agreements. That's a phenomenal book.
Yeah. Is that Paulo Coelho? No,
yes,
Paulo
it is.
Coelho,
Yeah. Really simple 2-hour book. Then I've gone to Beautiful Questions, which is just asking better questions in business and self. So a lot of things you've been uttering there, and that's why I was smiling nostalgically through it and reflecting to the book.
I'm literally just a walking regurgitation of my Audible library.
Oh well, mate. Now you've literally, because I'm close to the end of that, and you've just given me my new book, and that's why I'm genuinely gleaming. I'm like, I've got one now.
Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's also.
Mate, don't worry, because after this, I'm getting your top 10.
Just go for it.
Have you got a big library? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to do this?
Oh yeah, mate. Well, I think we can inspire people by exchanging libraries of Audible.
Well, I think where do we keep them now? The thing is, everything's like very accessible, isn't it now on things like Spotify and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've got a decent. Oh, hang on.
Has it because it's clearly inspired you so much, and you're quite down the path of Audible? Have you ever thought of your own book?
Frequently, and then the whole thing is just like shrouded in a realm of procrastination.
And
the thing is well, I wouldn't want to do a book that was just a regurgitation of shit other people have said. I mean, I might put it a little bit more blunt, but it's I don't know is the short answer. Where's my bloody Audible books? Oh no, I don't want PDFs. Here we go. Well, there's 80 on here. Oh. That's just in the audio. But yeah, so Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey. I'll probably listen to that. I would say in excess of, and I'm not joking, probably 80 to 100 times. I'd say. Yeah. So good.
When you find your roadmap, that's all you need sometimes, isn't it?
I really like 50 Cent's Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. That's a bit more of a kick up the hoop kind of, but also very, very, very smart guy. I'm listening to quite a bit of Alex Hormozy at the moment, so actually great one for PTs because he speaks a lot of he was like PT gym owner, gone to like over 100 million in business. Very, very smart guy. And if you haven't come across Ed Milet, he's very, very good. Well, so 50 Cent. I've probably listened to 50 Cent a lot. Stephen Bartlett's Happy Sexy Millionaire.
I know Stephen Bartlett. Yeah,
off Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Although for me, his podcast has gone a little bit. Now he's been BBC-ized. He's gone a little bit
I love that you make up words as well.
Wow.
Because it makes exact sense what you're saying when you say
you know
them.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's gone a bit PC, and he wasn't in the original one. In his podcast, kind of gone that way a little bit. So I want him to be a bit more, whatever. Maybe it's the Huel that he's drinking.
Everyone seems to be on that at the minute.
It's the noise you make when you're drinking it. Personal preference, isn't it? Jimmy Carr's personal development book is actually.
I actually love Jimmy
or
Carr.
hate Jimmy Carr.
Love him.
But you understand.
Does he read it?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Before and Laughter, it's called.
Yeah, I can easily get behind that.
Yeah, but he explains. Actually, there's a lot of what we've spoken about. Actually, even off camera and what have you, about just people getting offended over stuff, and he just talks about, by putting it in jokes, it's like it's your choice whether you people who the joke is about aren't getting offended because they're the ones laughing, if you know what I mean. It's how he puts it.
It's often a choice, isn't it? As most things be.
Very, very clever. Winning by Tim Grover. That's a really good book. The Decision by Kevin Hart. Read by Kevin Hart.
Okay, again,
I listened to that.
He was on Rogan's podcast, Kevin Hart.
Recently?
Yeah, of recent, and again, it was knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb. Great anecdote after great.
Like Saf had to. We were in Dubai, and Saf had to put a hand on my. You're laughing really loud. And I was like, sorry, because I got my earbuds in.
Lost the plot.
Yeah, because I forgot that we were on obviously a quiet beach in my head. We were at Kevin Hart concert.
Mate.
The Tim Ferriss stuff, but winners, quitters never win. The Michael Bisping one. If you're into MMA, which obviously you are, that's cool.
Let me create a scenario or context here. You're 25, 30, in that age range. You've pursued a bit of a career, and it's fallen short, and you're feeling a plateau. You're starting to get confused. You've got no idea what you want to do with your life now, and you're feeling, is time running out?
At 25?
Some people may be feeling this. Let's go more the 30 end.
Okay, yeah. Well, I started my business at 30.
Okay.
Almost exactly.
Is there one of the books that you were mentioning then that could really help confide in that person and give them a bit of a blueprint, rules and a direction?
If they wanted to start their own business, or they just don't know.
Find clarity. And it could be starting a business. It could be helping them on their path. Finding their tennis ball. I love saying that, but finding a pull. Any of those books that you've mentioned that you think, oh, mate, go to this one. That's going to be your first starter.
It's a very difficult.
You would need to know the mentality of that person, I suppose, because if they're more spiritual minded, if they've got quite a direct mind, academic mind, it's different languages for different people a lot of the time, I imagine. It
is, and I don't think there's necessarily a one size or one book fits all to it. So if it was they're like, I want to start my own business and I don't know what it is, I would 100% say the E-Myth by Michael Gerber first.
Brilliant.
Just to listen and just understand that, just to understand what he's talking about is super important. But I think because it's never too late to start for anybody, but I found that like the Matthew McConaughey book was, I don't know whether I just related to it so well because, at the time when I bought it, when it came out, I was just approaching 40. I don't know whether I just hit 40 or one of the two. And it was kind of one of those, it's just so clever in the way it's put together. Because the whole narrative is looking for the green lights in life and trying to avoid as many of the red ones as possible. And he does everything through, obviously, story based on how he's gone from here to here to here, and kind of how these things link up. And he talks about his adventures in the Amazon and all that kind of stuff, like basically tripping down the Amazon,
really?
and just the things that.
What was he on? Ayahuasca?
Did he have ayahuasca? I don't know whether. I know at one point he said it was just an ecstasy pill.
Really? Yeah, just down the Amazon on ecstasy.
Yeah, but you have to. I won't spoil it for you.
Okay, mate. Honestly, I've listened to so much of him, different podcasts. Just if you go on YouTube and just type in Matthew McConaughey inspiration,
there's loads
floods
of
and floods and floods. But
it's funny as well.
I love his balance. Yeah, he is balanced.
Very captivating.
Quite religious at heart, but
he's very spiritual in his.
I can't remember what his religion that he first was following, but I loved his concept of. I was very religious, but I learnt to pick and mix through that what worked for me. When they were talking about the burning bush, the metaphor didn't have any reference to my life or point of call, so I just pushed it to the side. And then when they were talking about Goliath, and I could really encapsulate, overcoming adversities and so on. And I just thought, okay, that's beautiful. He picked and mixed what worked for him in his life and what he needed in that moment.
And he's mixed it. Like, he's kind of like a spiritual guy mixed with like absolute hedonism, carnage, and rock and roll. That's literally
stoicism.
Like,
he's got it all. He's got it all.
But it's within the chapters of his life that he and to have the foresight to actually do it as well, because what he transcribed was actually him driving around in his massive 4x4. So at one point he was pretty nomadic. He would just travel around the States with his dog and this massive Airstream. Caravan, like those metal domes.
Oh, I know, man.
Dead expensive now. Then he'd just travel around with that, hitch up at a trailer park and what have you. But he'd have set up a recorder in his van, and he's almost speaking his memoirs there at the time. Wow. That's where it came from. So he'd got all these hours and hours and hours of footage from driving around, because he'd know where he wanted to go, and if someone wanted to give him a script or a director wanted to come in, he would fly them in, like say a few hours north of where he was going to be. He'd pick them up and he'd tell them to fly out another 7 hours further up, so they would get in the car, drive together and discuss what they were going to do, and he would drop them off at the airport. Wow. So they'd fly into one airport, drive to the next one, but that drive was the conversations of what was going to happen and all this kind of stuff. Drop them off and they'd be on their way. But he'd be narrating to himself the lessons that he was learning along the way, and that's where the book came from.
Wow.
Yeah, super clever.
Thank you for that,
to have that foresight though, to do that is.
I'm really looking forward to my walks now. Yeah,
it's a great book. Great book.
I've had this sort of concept of recent, when you're going for your walk, just be present, and then I've tried to take my headphones off a little bit and be in the moment. I've got a daughter and that, and I want to be with her as much as I can now. But I think I need a bit of both back in my life. So having focus, intent, go on a walk, but it's for learning, development.
Being present is just so like difficult. Well, it is for me.
It is for me.
Because you can't think about what you don't want to think about without thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's like
lovely loop to be in.
It's like, ooh, like nice field, lovely day. Right, okay, so and then your head's just doing what it wants to do, innit?
Matt, I've fucking loved this. I've really enjoyed my time with you.
You definitely have to put the E on your thing.
Sure. I've really enjoyed this whole podcast. If I ever meet anybody that says, "Oh, Owen Oxley again," I'll remember that it's going to be a long podcast.
It's going to be long form. Yeah.
But I'd quite enjoy if you'd be up for it, coming back on, and maybe us picking a topic and something.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2. There's a lot in your story we haven't had chance to get to. I imagine, like, the more creative drama, drumming, musical side that really does interest me as well.
You mean not my appendix bursting in the middle of the Iraq War? You didn't want to know about
that? Really? Now
no, that was for the next one.
We'll have a think where we could go, because it really could be a 4-hour podcast for me and you. I just love listening. I love story. I love wisdom, philosophy, everything, and you encapsulate all of that. You've got. It oozes from you. I love that word.
I'm glad you didn't say it oozes from every orifice.
Mate, well, I'm going to come and check out Nutrition Angel as well.
Yeah,
so
cool. Yeah, we need to get onto. We need to because we've got some cool stuff. If I was going to write a book, it would probably be. It would either be the shit my girlfriend says, because she comes out with some amazing stuff that half of which I can't repeat, or it would be shit my clients say, because they're just. Yeah, if I could write a book on that.
Part 1, Part 2, mate. Part 1, Part 2. Well, have you got anything you'd like to put forward, advertise, just sell yourself. You've got this moment to do so, where people can go and find you, because it's been inspirational. I love it.
Honestly, I genuinely appreciate it.
What a guy.
It. And I was sort of a little bit... I wouldn't say I was filled with intrepidation, because that's a little bit extreme. I was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, which kind of has been okay.
Oh, for me, this is what I want podcasts to be. I always try and create in music, when I'm doing a film, whatever I'm doing and creating, what do I want?
Yeah.
What would I like to listen to and do? And that, don't know where we're trekking, where we're going, but having a friend in my pocket for the day is always been what podcasts are for me and what they do for me.
Yeah. I suppose what I liked about this bit is we didn't actually focus too much on me, because I don't really like talking about me, but I like talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It was that.
It's harder to. I think it's, well, I don't know, because apparently it's like people love talking about themselves, but I much prefer to learn. And
you've got a lot of life experience, but we managed to get through the experiences, but it's more about the lessons and how they could be in anybody's life at any point of their life.
I mean, fundamentally, if someone takes something from this, then great. Then, it's like I said at the start, leave people better than you found them. If there's something that they can pull out to maybe think, well, actually, I should perhaps look at that.
I'm just surprised you haven't got a podcast. Genuinely, that's my biggest sort of thing to fathom out through this.
It's time as well, because me and Saffron had spoke about doing one, because we didn't get onto the Miss Great Britain stuff either, did we? So, which is
mate, I'm with a very busy man, and I heard 4:00, and I thought, right, I do want to respect that. So,
well,
a good 2-hour podcast here for people.
We've got a few times, but I'm going to, I suppose, answer the question of. Look, if people want to find me, Matt Elliott Biz on all socials is pretty much it. 2 L's, 2 T's. Otherwise, right, I'm going to buy you some wireless headphones.
Mate, I know. Do you know what? Your podcast, I've repositioned them, because what they were pointed upright and then this way. And it kind of worked, but it'd get in the guest's face. So I thought, if we just have it down and up, it looks a little bit better. But I'm finding in this podcast... You've got to be...
Well, only because in future I would just not... Yeah, I'll keep them
dead
all
still.
Above board. No, my friend and I, a guy called Roddy, we'd started doing some like recording and stuff like that, and we just couldn't find our feet with like the narrative we wanted to go down, because there's quite a lot of... I hate the word saturation, because at the end of the day, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and there's an abundance out there. But at the same time, it's very difficult at the moment to cut through the noise where business is concerned, I feel. So actually coming up with some kind of direction, and then how busy we both got. Because we started it before I opened the Nutrition Angel, and then with the vision that I've got for that, and then of course with the whole Miss Great Britain company as well. It's just kind of one of those things that it's maybe just not the right time. It will go to the back of the pile, but I'm more than happy to jump on and chat with people and all that kind of stuff. But the thing, as you very well know, it's a time consuming.
I fully understand that. I look forward to the day, because again, that's saying the only thing that makes you unique is you, and you're very unique in the way that you give information. You make it very easy to understand and digestible, and nice. I think you are a lovely human. So you're very. I
don't think I've ever been called a lovely human before.
You're very podcast worthy, and I look forward to the day that does come to fruition, if it does, and you choose to. But
never say never.
Thank you for being on this podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time you've put in, because you've now got to edit and do all the stuff that takes all the.
It's very much worth it. It is. I'll do my bit. Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I'm going to leave you on this. I always do, and I always will. Just be nice to one another, you beautiful set of buggers. See you later. Be nice.